So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight on this college awareness workshop. It's a team effort with HawaiiUSA Federal Credit Union and the Hawai'i Association for College Admissions Counseling. We are all just super excited to have you all tonight to just increase your college awareness for you, your youth, and your family members as a way to just kind of get a jump start on this whole college planning process. Tonight was intentional to have middle school through juniors on this call so that conversations can start now. Like you can start talking to your friends, your families about your concerns, your fears, your excitement about this whole new chapter in your life. And so in the chat, if you don't mind, post all your questions. We have a team, literally like a huge team of counselors ready to field all your questions as we go through these slides. And so every question is a great question, so please don't hold back. So let's kind of dive into this. So my name is Sheldon. I'm with Kapiolani Community College, but a proud member of the Hawai'i Association for College Admissions Counseling. With me is Martin from UH West Oahu and Stacy from HawaiiUSA FCU, and we're going to just be talking to you all about college awareness topics. And so let's get into some of the definitions. So when you folks are looking at schools, it's good to have an idea of what's out there. So these are all like your post-high school options. And one is not better than the other. It's all options. And so you want to find out what is going to be a good fit for you. And so it could be a community college, it could be shooting for a bachelor's degree, could even be taking a break. And so these are all options for students to consider when thinking about life after high school. The important message to have is making sure that you have meaningful, insightful conversations with your friends, with your family, with your counselors. You want to get all your ideas out on the table, all your questions out on the table. Like, what does it mean to go to a community college? What does it mean to go into apprenticeship? Like, ask all those questions. And on the screen is, all your different options on your post-high school endeavors on what's going to be a good fit for you. So along those conversations are, why am I going? And so you want to look at these different headings to kind of figure out why you're going to college. It's a loaded question, and it's a question worth asking multiple times, like if not with your friends, but with your family members. Again, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but these are just really great topics to just start that conversation on why should I even go? Why should I even bother? And just have those real honest conversations on what college is all about. But this is one of the big ones. And so when we live in Hawaii, there's the cost of living that we have to consider. And so when you're looking at different, lifestyles, living in Hawaii, this is something to consider. And so 3 things that I always like to talk about when I talk to students about going to college is understanding your values, understanding what your priorities are, and what you're willing to sacrifice. And so there's no right or wrong answer. It's just having these meaningful discussions on what is your values, like what is your priorities and what are you willing to sacrifice. And so for a lot of our students, they really want to live in Hawaii, which is great. And so, but they have to understand the cost of living in Hawaii. And so these are just kind of, again, talking points on, okay, so what I'm going to do. So if I'm going to stay in Hawaii, what am I going to do? So again, what are my values? What am I willing to sacrifice to reach my priorities? And so these are the things, again, I guess worth talking about. This is just a national average on what folks make, depending what degree they earn, but I wouldn't hold to this too much. Like before tonight, I looked at this website again because I wanted to find out how much plumbers make. And plumbers are like, I want to say in the high 70s, maybe low 80,000s. And so, and I believe it's more certification versus a college degree. So again, like if earning a higher wage is a priority, and if working in a trade is something that you are very interested in, by all means, talk it out, go for it if that is something that you are just passionate about. But looking at the screen, again, this is just, again, national averages, again, to start that conversation on, oh, what does it mean to get an associate's degree? What does it mean to get a professional degree? And this is the breakdown. True side story. I had a friend who, lawyer, was making good money, but was working 7 days a week, perhaps close to 15 hours a day. And so even though she was making good money, it was almost as if she couldn't enjoy that. But it was the type of law she was practicing. So again, no judgment. She had a certain priority, but certain sacrifices needed to be made. When you folks are exploring different degrees, it might have different headings, different titles. It's just keep an eye out for it and maybe use, and then we're going to show this in a little bit, use different tools to dive deeper into what these different degree means. You know, for instance, what is a pharmacy technician versus a pharmacist? What is a difference between a radiologic technologist versus a radiologist? And so you want to take those deeper dives into what the different degrees mean and what the outcome is going to be. And again, that helps with how far you're going to go in your education in what maybe the industry requires. And so this just gives you like a snapshot on what to look for and how different maybe degrees are labeled depending on which degree you're going to pursue. So I know for the middle schoolers out there, you're probably thinking, okay, high school is around the corner. Like, what do I do? So this is, again, just tips on how to maximize your high school experience. For those in high school, these are good checks to kind of maybe revisit. Again, looking at things that are going to perhaps enhance your high school experience, perhaps choosing things that's going to verify that maybe what career or what degree is going to be that fit. My son is going to kill me, but he joined the boba tea club, which is a lot of fun. But we're asking him, okay, what are you going to get out of this club? Is just going to different boba tea places and just kind of getting sugar highs? I don't know. But it's almost dissecting, like, what are you going to do with that club? Are you going to create community events? Are you going to do fundraisers, whatever? And so you want to make sure that you're going to do things that will help you narrow down what your interests might be, what your strengths might be, what your values might be. And so, again, talk to your middle school, high school counselors, have opportunities to talk this out, flush this out, and make the most of your middle school, even your high school experience. And I want to show you folks this slide and just kind of take it for face value. Again, not one is better than the other, but again, talking points. What does it mean to be college eligible? What does it mean to be college ready? And so just take a look at the two sides of this slide. And just so you know, this slide will be made available afterwards, and you can take a picture of this if you wish. But this is a good thing to view of what is college eligible and what is college ready. I've many stories. And so I had this one student who came to Kapi'olani Community College, really wanted to be an engineer, but his math wasn't so strong. So you may think, okay, maybe he wasn't college eligible, but he was willing to work really hard. He managed his time very well. He set high priorities for himself, and is willing to put, say, studying over perhaps going out. And so that is college ready. And so long story short, even though he may have placed low here at Kapi'olani, he exited out with his electrical engineering degree. And so he may not at the gate be college eligible, maybe based on his high school performance, but he was college ready. And so again, not one is better than the other. It's just, again, having these talking points and really fleshing it out. So again, post your questions in the chat. You have a ton of high school counselors ready to help you, ready to field questions. And so just ask away. So we're going to dive into college fit, or social fit, I should say. So here are things you guys may want to ask, maybe to yourself through self-reflection, or maybe if you're, say, I don't know if I'm dating myself, like writing a journal on what you want out of a college experience or what you want out of, say, your military experience, is these haves, must-haves, or nice to have. Like, write down everything. It could be, I really want to do sports, or I really want a strong art program, or I want them to have a maker space, just have that list of must have and then nice to have. And then that could help you maybe start your college search, or perhaps even narrow it down. So I don't know if any of you attended the college fair that was at the Hawaii Convention Center. That was just huge, just a lot of booths, a lot of choices. And so you're thinking to yourself, how do I even narrow that down? Like there was over 100. How do I narrow it down? Because I'm not going to apply to 100 schools. And so you break this down to perhaps must have and nice haves, and then you just filter that down. So when you go to these college fairs, again, you have a better sense of what to look for. Then you want to look at your learning styles. Think to perhaps your toughest subject, maybe a subject that you have a good time with, and you just think to yourself, like, how do I prepare for the test? How do I prepare for projects? How do I do really well in certain classroom environments? And you want to maybe really purposely write these things down and find, this is how I study. These are my favorite subjects. This is, even though it might be hard, but this is what I love to do as far as taking on challenges. And so these are really great things to really dissect and just drill down to find out, why do you like certain subjects? Find out what the graduation requirements are. And again, these are just all different, I should say, not topics, but different things to consider when you're looking at different colleges. One I want to point to is some schools are on quarter systems. Some people call it trimesters, other call it semesters. And if you're wondering what does that mean, look at the different schools, and then you can find how they sort of map out their academic year. Going to learning styles. And so if you look at one side, are you a good test taker, or are you more project hands-on? I mean, these are, again, things you want to really reflect on to determine what's going to be a good fit. Maybe some schools have large lecture halls, and maybe you're okay with that. I remember having a conversation with my doctor the other day, and we're talking about his son. And he was saying that the son preferred a smaller learning environment. And so he appreciated the smaller colleges because he had easier access to his instructors. And so, again, not one is better than the other. You want to know yourself and how you will perform your very best. And so it's understanding your learning style so that you can just kind of navigate through what's going to be a good fit. So sometimes you see the brand name schools, it's pretty cool. Let's take UCLA for an instance, but that school is huge versus if you go to, say, University of San Francisco, that school is not that big. Perhaps that smaller learning environment might be better. And so again, you just want to kind of weigh what's going to be important to you and what's of value to you. And when you think about, or when you see people talk about, oh, I want to go to a small college, I want to go to extra large, this is what they're referring to. This is your ballpark number on what small, medium, large, extra large colleges mean. And I was totally tripping out when I saw the definition of extra large. I thought large in itself, that's just large, but I didn't realize there were extra large colleges. And so when you're doing your research, look for the sizes, look for these 4 things to determine what's going to be maybe a fit for you when you are exploring your post-high school education. Other things to consider, are they strong liberal arts college? Do they have certain specialties? Do they have different kind of features that resonates with you? And so again, there's so many ways to research this, but first, again, you're going to do a whole bunch of self-reflection to find out what's going to be important to you and what's going to help you thrive in this new environment. And you also want to look at what's public versus private, because even with that, and we're going to go into this a little bit, some of the privates may have more scholarship opportunities than publics. And as you can see here, some might be focused more on research, some more on teaching. And so you just want to really do your homework, especially for you middle schoolers out there. Just really do your homework. Just kind of, as ideas pop into your mind, it's like, oh, what is a liberal arts college? I want to look that up. Or what is a fine arts college? I want to look that up. And then just maybe save it in a folder or just jot it down somewhere. So at least you have your thought process recorded so that when you revisit this year after year, it starts to really filter down to what's going to be your end goal. Again, more things to look at when you're considering a social fit, when you're thinking about college after high school. A big one is geographic location. So my son, when he's thinking about school, what he told me the other day, he would feel different if he wasn't near a large body of water. And so we talked that out. And so then that was important to him. And so that is a legit thing to discuss. And so you want to talk these things out. Is diversity a big thing? Is, again, being next to an ocean a big thing? Is snow a thing? We had this one coworker, the son was on a football team and they were practicing in weather below zero. And so are you able to kind of navigate through that? So again, these are real life conversations you want to have, because let's say you are committed to whatever state and it drops below zero. Are you willing to muscle through that for the next, I don't know how many years? Are you going to be okay with layering? So again, just meaningful, large conversations to have. And then you got housing, you got different types of extracurricular activities. For some, sports is a big thing. Others may not be such a big thing. Talking to my coworker, I believe his niece has a really cool dorm situation where it's 4 people per room. They each got their own room, but they share a common bathroom, which is pretty cool. Whereas some dorms, they have one restroom for the whole floor. And so that could be interesting. Anyway, so you want to have these, again, I know I sound like a broken record, but talk to people who lived in dorms. Ask them, what was your dorm situation like? Did you have just 2 roommates, or did you have 4? Did you share a bathroom? Like, you want to have those larger conversations because it's important. I mean, you got to shower every day, so you're going to be in this situation every day. So lots and lots and lots to talk about. So I'm going to hand it over to Martin. We're going to talk about the financial fit.
Hi, everyone. Martin Motoka from UH West Oahu. So going along with your search process, one of the key factors is to consider the cost of attendance. Now, when we start this, oftentimes we think the cost of the university and we're only looking at what their tuition is, but there's a whole bunch that's also incorporated into that, such as what are their student fees? You know, if you are going out of state, what are the costs of living in the dorms? What about the meal plans? But even if the school does not require that you live in the dorms, or if housing is not available, if you're planning to live around the campus or in an apartment, these are additional expenses. Books and supplies also cost money. I know for myself, when I entered into college, I was shocked because I was born and raised through the public school system. And I did not realize we had to purchase textbooks. And I also did not realize how expensive these textbooks were. But there are ways to lower this cost, such as if you do your registration earlier, you can look for additional sources outside of your campus bookstore, such as Amazon, eBay, Craigslist, or Facebook Marketplace. Just make sure that you pay attention to which edition it is to help drive that cost down. Personal expenses is another one. You are going to be living. So, this would be your toothpaste, clothing, your weekend entertainment, and then transportation. So are you attending an institution in state? Are you planning to utilize the public transportation system, or are you going out of state and then you have to factor in the cost of airfare? So this is an example of what the cost breakdown is. This is just a snapshot of the various institutions. As you can see, that cost of tuition and fees is just one small part of what the total cost of attendance is. And so the community colleges by far are the most affordable option for students. Now, the community colleges, this is if you're a resident in that state, because it is heavily subsidized. And the same thing goes with your local 4-year public institution. And then as you look out of state, even though they could be a public school like any of the UC school system, like UCLA, UC Irvine, you'll notice that the cost is significantly higher. And the reason for that, as a non-resident student, your state taxes are not going to help subsidize that cost. And so you don't have that benefit. There are ways around that. So for our students, if you're a resident of Hawaii, you are qualified for the Western Undergraduate Exchange Program, or WUI, which we'll talk about. And that's a way of attending out-of-state public institution at a fraction of the cost. And then you'll see that continental or mainland private schools tend to be the most expensive. But this is what we call the sticker price. And so it's good to be mindful of this when you start your search, but you should not let the sticker price of these institutions dictate whether or not you apply. Because this is like that car dealership that you pass by, you see that bright green number on the car windshield. But most of the time, once you talk to the car dealership, once you show that you are seriously considering purchasing that car, they will bring that cost down. And it's the same thing with colleges, right? Like once you apply, once the school determines, this is a great student, we want you, you're going to be a good fit, then that's how they'll start offering scholarships or other opportunities to help bring that down. So it's good to be mindful of this. But again, this is just the sticker price. So these are some search websites that we recommend that you go to. College Board, College Navigator, College Factual, and the Princeton Review are all great websites that have a humongous search engine. One of the drawbacks to this, though, is you have to know what to look for. And oftentimes it can be overwhelming. If you were to look for a school that offers English or sociology or psychology as an example, that's a pretty broad net and it can quickly become overwhelming. So what I recommend doing for the high school students or for middle schoolers entering into high school, get to know your college counselor at your high school campus. They sit through all these presentations. They know a lot of admissions people and they are experts in this field. And through this conversation that you have with your college counselor, they can offer suggestions that you may not have known even existed, because they can, provide suggestions or facts about smaller schools that may not pop up on these large searches. So it's important to have these or start these conversations early, and it's a two-way communication between you as a student and you as a parent, figuring out, what can you realistically expect or contribute to your students' education as far as like finances go for the student. Are you looking to stay in state? Or if you know that you want or your aspirations are to go to the mainland, the earlier you start this conversation, the more preparation you can do. And so it's important that, parents, you be supportive. You are the cheerleader. Make sure that you keep track of their accomplishments. If they're an athlete, if they do well, if they're in the paper, save those, because that will help create that brag sheet when you start applying to these colleges. And then in your senior year, it's important that you do the FAFSA when it opens. The earlier, the better, so that you can qualify for a lot of financial aid, which we'll cover in greater detail, as we progress on. Yeah. So this is the other side. What are colleges looking for in students? And so your transcripts tell us a great story, right? So when we look at everything, just be aware that we are looking at all of your grades as well as the courses that you chose to take. Now, I know that some of you middle schoolers, some of you eighth graders are already taking algebra. If that's algebra that will show up on your high school transcript, we are paying attention to what that grade is. That's what we consider a core class, and we factor that in to our college decision. So it could have already started if you are in eighth grade. So just be mindful of this. I know when I was entering into high school, my friends had told me that a lot of colleges do not look at your freshman year because that's considered your transition year, which is not true. We look at all 4 years, and at the same time, be mindful that we look at your final transcript, right? So what will happen in your senior year is that you'll start to be gain these acceptance letters, and you'll be admitted. And oftentimes, or not often, but we sometimes will see students get what's called senioritis, where they're so focused on starting their college year, they start to slack off, or they let their foot off the gas pedal in high school, and their grades will slip. That is a mistake, especially when it comes down to scholarships. Oftentimes, these scholarships are very specific as to what their GPA requirement is. Like, so for example, we have one of our full ride scholarships starts at a 3.5 cumulative GPA. If your final transcript comes in at a 3.49999 with that line over it, you are no longer eligible for that scholarship because we do not round up. So it's important that you stay the course and finish strong. Other things to consider are that colleges look at is, are you taking AP classes? Are you in honors? What type of student or what type of rigor are you pushing yourself to do? And then the other factor is the standardized tests. So a lot of schools now have gone test optional. Some schools, test optional is if you do have great scores and you think that will help strengthen your position as a candidate for that institution. If they're selective, then you can submit it. But the college is saying it's up to you. Other schools like at West Oahu, for example, we are considered test blind, where we do not take your test scores into consideration at all. And then some of the more selective schools do have that as a mandatory requirement. So just be aware. For all the students that are in a DOE school or a public school, in your junior year, you will take the ACT test. And that is covered by our government. Just know that is a real ACT test, and that's a real ACT score. So it is important that you prepare for it and you study for that. Okay, and then other schools require that you submit a personal statement, letters of recommendation, and they also want to know what your background is, right? So what kind of community service do you do? Are you involved in the community? Or do you have a job while in high school? So these are things to consider. Okay, so this is the recommended curriculum that students take. And keep in mind, again, for our public school students, this is above what our DOE requires. So I know the DOE wants 3 years of math, 3 years of science, but studies have shown that if you take that 4th year of math, you do better. Our students do tend to do better in college. Now, depending on what field you're looking to go into or what major you're looking to go into, try to base your decisions around those. So for example, if you want to go into marine biology, if you want to be a marine biologist, taking marine biology in high school would be a great opportunity, and it makes sense. Also going up to, or sometimes, we take care of that 4th year of math in that junior year summer. Again, we recommend, or it is recommended, that you take math in your senior year, because math is one of those subjects that we lose that skill the further away we are removed from it, right? And if you don't believe me, students, when you do your math homework tonight, ask your parents for help and see how fast they ask Google for assistance on that, right? Another thing to consider is this language requirement. So some colleges do require 2 years of a second language. Now, keep in mind that that's 2 years of the same language. And you're probably like, what do you mean by that? Well, for myself, I took Japanese 1 my freshman year in high school because I knew that a lot of schools required it. I passed Japanese 1 with an A, like I knew I would. And then I took Japanese 2, and Japanese 2 was a completely different story. It was ridiculously hard. And I struggled so much with it that my sensei had told me, 1 week before first quarter was over, that I needed to drop her class, and I had no idea what that meant at the time. But she just did not want to give me a bad grade because that's the way I was headed. And so I did, and then I worked with my counselor. My counselor had suggested that I take Spanish instead. And so in my junior year, I took Spanish 1 and I got a C, which is not great, but language was very difficult for me. And then I thought I was done because I had 2 years, I had Japanese 1 and Spanish 1. And then my college counselor had shattered my bubble, and she said, it's 2 years of a same language. So in my senior year, I had to take Spanish 2, and I struggled with Spanish 2. So part of my college search process was looking for colleges that did not require that I take a language while being a student there. So some schools do have that as a requirement. Some only require it on the front end for admissions. Others don't require it both for admission purposes or as a student. So just be mindful of that. Fine arts would be like photography, drawing, ceramics, any of those types of classes. Okay, so going further into detail about these standardized tests, there are the 2 largest, which is the SAT and the ACT test. So be sure to sign up for that. Both of these tests normally do have a testing fee associated with them, but again, for the juniors, you can or you will take a free ACT test if you attend a public school. There are options to prep for this. So, take these tests seriously. They are lengthy tests, and the subjects are extensive. So there are free options for you to go deeper into this. And so you can go for SAT, it would be College Board, and that'll point you to the Khan Academy. What's nice about the Khan Academy is it does an assessment, it matches where you are, and then it'll build your skill set from there. And then the ACT also has something similar on their website as well for preparation. And this is great. This is a newer thing. When I was going through this, the internet didn't really exist. So we had to find these classes, and oftentimes we were taking them after school or over the summer. So now you can do it, and it's free online. And if you have any questions about this, again, see your college counselor, or you can also reach out to any of the counselors in our chat here today. Other example or other tests would be like TOEFL. So if English is not your first language, some schools may require the TOEFL, which is Test of English as a Foreign Language. Now, additional tests would be AP. So if you take AP courses in your high school, that's great. Again, colleges look at this, and we take this into consideration when we're looking at the rigor of your curriculum. But there is a chance or an opportunity to take the AP exam. Based on how well you do on this test, you could potentially earn college credit. The advantage to this is, like, let's say you take AP English, you score well, and you get the English credits. That's 3 credits, and the cost of the AP exam is significantly less than what it would have cost if you were to take English 100 at that college or institution. So there are upsides to taking the AP exam. The PSAT is a practice SAT, a practice test that you will take. But take this test seriously as well, because if you do well, it's a qualifying exam for the national merit, or for national merit consideration. And the ASVAB is a free military test that's offered at schools. And each school has a specific date. So when you're, if you're a high school student, check with your college counselor when it is being offered. But this is a great test for those of us who don't know where our strength lies, or we have no idea of what subject or major we're looking to pursue when we go on to college. So this is an aptitude test, and it gives suggestions as to what careers you might find interesting, or where your strengths may lie. And again, it's a free test, and there's no obligation to enlist in any of the military services. So the SAT, like all of these tests, cost money, with the exception of the ASVAB, but there are ways that you can have this, or you may be eligible for a fee waiver where you can take this test free of charge. And so based on the members of your household and what your annual income is, you may be qualified for that. So like, for example, if you are on free or reduced lunch, you are eligible to take the SAT or ACT test free. And these waivers also can be applied for college application fees. So colleges do charge money to apply to their institution. And oftentimes there are ways that you can have that application fee waived as well. Okay. So another way to apply to a lot of colleges, it's the Common App. Not all schools participate on the Common application, but there are a lot. Just know that it's one application, you select the schools that you want, so it streamlines the process, and then your application gets submitted to those institutions that you indicate. They require a personal essay, and it's one prompt, or you select one prompt out of 7 possible prompts. And it is important that you take that personal essay, or you take your time with that personal essay. So again, the personal essay, or the goal of the personal essay, is this is your chance for the colleges to hear your voice. You know, outside of this, we're just looking at numbers and your residency information, your background, or your historical information, but your essay is really your time to shine. This is your bragging point, right? So it's your opportunity to let that admissions office know who you are. You know, let us know what your interests are, or why are you interested in attending our school, and share something significant about yourself. You know, this is also an opportunity, like if, for example, if you didn't do as well as you know you could have because something happened in your life, right? This is your chance to let those schools know what that incident is. But again, you know, turn it into a positive, right? So even if something, you know, like COVID happened and we were forced to go online, it wasn't an ideal situation. We know that, you know, as an institution, but tell us how you overcame it or what you did to make the best out of your situation. Now, I always recommend that you have your teachers, your counselors, your parents read this, because they can give different perspectives. They can make edits and correct it just so that it's really polished at the point of submitting. A pro tip on this is do not rely on spell check, right? So use spell check, absolutely, but don't rely on it. You know, reread this personal essay, because what you'll find is that our colleges and universities were not that original. So we tend to use the same essay prompts, not only for admission purposes, but also for a lot of scholarships as well. But just make sure you reread it before you submit it per each institution. Because every year, you know, I'll come across that one essay where that last sentence will say, like, you know, and this is why I would be a great student at UCLA. And I'm like, no, that's the wrong school, right? So automatically disqualified, and I'm looking at the next one. So again, just, you know, that's not something spell check will pick up. So just do your, you know, take your time and reread it, be thorough before you submit it. Okay, now letters of recommendation, this is important. This is something that you will ask in your senior year of your teachers, counselors, community members like coaches, you know, any club advisors. Depending on your scholarship or university, they may require 1 to 2 letters. So when you ask early. If you wait, you know, and you only give the person you're asking a week to write this, that's not enough time, because you are not the only senior that they have, and you're not the only one asking them for a letter of recommendation. You know, especially our college counselors during peak times, they are seeing a tremendous amount of requests. So the earlier you ask, the better the quality of that letter. You know, and also, you know, if you wait too close to that deadline, you know, these teachers and counselors do not have to write this letter of recommendation for you, right? And you don't want to get turned away, especially if it's in a subject or in a class that you're doing well in. So ask early. Also, give them a resume or a brag sheet when you ask, because this will allow them to write a letter with deeper value or more substance because they'll get to know what else you do outside of that classroom.
So true story on that. So when a student came out to me like a week before the scholarship was due, there wasn't a whole lot that I could write. It was more like just surface information because I just had to get it out. And so I'm pretty sure I didn't do that student any justice whatsoever. But
yeah, that's a fair point. Also, know who you're asking. I have had, and it hasn't happened often, but I have had not letters of recommendation where the teacher will say like Martin is a good student, but and then it's always that but that could trip you up. So know who you're asking. Students do well in your class, participate, don't have your AirPods in, submit your homework, participate, and they'll want to write these letters of recommendation for you, right?
yeah, I've read some really great ones where students were, like you said, Martin, just heavily involved. And those letters were stellar. Like they really spoke to the students' skills. But thanks. So got questions, just email us. We happy to get back to you. Continuing on with this whole financial fit, there's also financial literacy. I'm going to just touch on it very briefly for all of you out there. These are just terms to get familiar with. Hawaii P20 does an excellent job having virtual financial aid workshops, and those are totally worth checking out because Frank Green goes into some serious detail about financial aid, and he provides a very honest and real perspective on the whole process. But these are just terms to get you familiar with. So when you jump into these sessions, those terms don't seem so overwhelming. These sessions will talk about what we addressed early on, the Western Undergraduate Exchange, another good financial option to study on the continent, but not pay the non-resident tuition fees. So if you want, please search WUI, and you'll hear that term a lot. So Western Undergraduate Exchange, to really explore what this partnership's all about. I mean, some I heard the tuition students pay through WUI at times is cheaper than attending school here locally in Hawaii. So check it out. Scholarships, there's plenty. And so these are just some websites worth checking out to just get an idea of what they're asking for, what type of essays you may need to write, what kind of letters of recommendations maybe they're asking for, timeline. What you're going to find is calendars are going to be your friends. So when you look at all these websites, when you find out all their deadlines, you're going to plot these scholarship deadlines in your calendar so you're hitting those points, and so you can potentially get these scholarship awards. If you miss those deadlines, I heard this presentation by Hawaii Community Foundations. Once their deadline is there, their system shuts off and you cannot submit afterwards. And so read through these websites, get very familiar with what they're asking for, and just go for it. I mean, as someone who manages one of the UH scholarships, there are times where, going with maybe what Martin shared, they were submitting just okay letters, so we did an award. And there were a few years where we didn't award scholarships, where there are some where maybe there were just like 3 or 4 that applied, really great letters of recommendation, and we were able to award them. And so it could be $500 here, $100 there, a couple thousand there, so every dollar counts. So check out these scholarship websites. And this is the financial aid workshops I was referring to. So if you click on or take a picture of the QR code, or if you go to this website, these are free and open to the public. It is kind of long, but the information is very valuable. Like it'll take you through each step of the FAFSA process. And so if there's any hesitation or nervousness about doing the FAFSA, these workshops are just amazing. And Frank does just a bang up job making sure that all your concerns are addressed. And he does it in a way where it doesn't seem so overwhelming at the end of his presentation. Very much worth checking out. I must have seen his presentation like 4 or 5 times, maybe not more, if not more. And I'm always learning something new. But again, if you have any questions about the college process, the college journey, anything that we talked about today, feel free to contact the Hawai'i Association for College Admissions Counseling community at hawaiiacac.org, and we'll be more than happy to talk to you. Now I'm going to hand it over to Hawaii USA, Stacy, who's going to talk about, I think every parent's stress is my child holding a credit card. So Stacy, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Sheldon and Martin. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're ready for just a little bit more information. I'll try to keep this short, light, and entertaining. My name is Stacy Rosa. I'm the Community Partnerships Manager for HawaiiUSA Federal Credit Union. I am also a mom, and I like to think of myself as a little bit of an expert, maybe. I have a 25-year-old, so my oldest daughter graduated from college in Oregon in 2019. And I currently have a sophomore as well. My second daughter is a sophomore. So been through one, going through it again, sitting in the same seat you guys are right now. Second experience is way different than the first, but if there's anything I can leave you guys with tonight, I hope to just share some real life relatable tips and some really great tricks and smart money management tips for you and for your student, for your child, in hopes that it'll help you folks get prepared for whatever journey lies ahead after high school for you folks. So real quick video, just wanted to share with you guys intro into this next conversation with HawaiiUSA Federal Credit Union. If you guys don't know who we are here to help you guys make your dreams come true. So here's a quick video.
I started my first bank account right before I went off to college. Opening that bank account really provided me that first step into independence. My student debt definitely makes me anxious and worried for HawaiiUSA providing me that scholarship. It really eases the burden for me to continue my education. Although it's super hard and challenging and huge time commitment, it's definitely worth it.
All right, so like I said, gonna share with you guys some 5 must-haves before starting college or whatever your next journey may be. I'm gonna go off the rail just a little bit for a quick second and just share. I've been watching the chat here and I'm gonna try not to get distracted by it, but I saw a lot of really great questions coming through. And if I could take a moment just to share with you guys the journey that my husband and I and our eldest daughter went through, I think her experience really kind of touched on a lot of the different questions that were coming through. So, you know, Martin and Sheldon talked a lot about how to choose the right school, how to prepare to apply to different schools, and just a lot of things to take into consideration while making these decisions for the next chapter in your lives. One of the biggest things I always tell people when they ask, you know, how did you guys do it? And you know, what was it like? My biggest tip to everyone is always to have open, honest conversations. That is a huge factor in anything that's going to happen in your young adult's life. For my daughter, we didn't have the financial resources to be able to send her away to go and visit schools before we made a decision. So a lot of her research was done online. And while YouTube videos are great, and there's a lot of like campus tours and dorm room tours and things like that, she really we really didn't know exactly what she was going to get into wherever she went. And so we really heavily relied on the expertise of her college counselor, because that is their job, right? As a college counselor, that is their job to know the different schools that are out there, what it takes to be accepted into them, what the experience is like at that school, and so much more. And so for us, you know, we made it a priority to meet as a family with her college counselor as often as we could and to ask all these questions. And for our daughter, she ended up going to Pacific University in Forest Grove, Oregon. It was a school we had never heard of. We were thinking, you know, all the ones we knew the name, like UNLV or, you know, UCLA. But when it came down to it, her counselor, knowing her as an individual and knowing about the different schools, really drove us to that school by knowing that she would thrive in an environment that was a smaller campus. Somewhere if she didn't show up for class one day, they'd know and they'd go knock on her dorm room and say, hey, are you sick? Are you sleeping? What's going on? But yeah, rely on your college counselors for their knowledge and their expertise. The other thing is the sticker price. I saw a comment in there about, was that dollar amount for 1 year or 4 years? Don't let that sticker price scare you away from looking into a school. And really looking into it for the opportunity that it holds for your student, as well as the experience in itself. Because hopefully Martin and Sheldon don't get mad at me for saying this, but at the end of the day, my daughter going away to college in Oregon, we paid less out of pocket than we would have had to pay had she stayed home here in Hawaii. And it just boils down to access to endowment funds and scholarships, and it was a private university versus public, and things of that nature. And so on top of that, there's access to all kinds of scholarships out there. When you guys get the presentation emailed to you folks, go through it again and go to all the different websites and things that are linked there for you guys or are shown to you guys, because there's a wealth of information out there. But going back to the open, honest communication, it was important to our daughter that she went away. As much as that hurt my feelings at first, she said, I need to get away from you, Mom. I don't want to stay at home because it will be too easy for me to call you when I forget something, or for you to ask me where I'm going. And she just really wanted to experience being a young adult on her own, trying to make it, hashtag adulting. So going away was important to her. For us, again, financially, we knew what our limits were. And so we told her from the get-go, this is what we as a family can commit to providing to support your education. You can go anywhere you want, as long as at the end of the day, you can fill that gap of whatever your school costs with what we can give you to support you, and you can fill it. And for us as a family personally, it was important that she did not take out any loans. So she had to figure out if she could secure enough scholarships and funding without taking out loans. So again, just to go back to all the different questions, it really comes down to family values, family dynamic, open, honest communication and conversation, and all of that will lead to your final decision. I'm going to jump into the content I'm supposed to talk about before I get scoldings. But if anyone at any time wants to just chat and talk story, or just, ask questions from someone who's been through it, good, bad, ugly, I'm an open book and I love to share. If you can't already tell, I love to wala'au. So let me get into the content and then I'll jump back for questions at the end. So a couple of good tips for you folks. Nowadays, I didn't know for the longest time what P2P stood for, and I hope I got it right today, and it stands for peer-to-peer. But these are all your apps that a lot of people are using nowadays to get money from one place to another. So your Venmos, your PayPals, your Zelles, all that kind of stuff. What people often maybe misconstrue or don't realize is that there is still a need for a financial an account to exist in order for those apps to work. So what we recommend is that you don't solely rely on those peer-to-peer apps. They're great to use, don't get me wrong. They're great to use, but don't rely on just that. Instead, make sure you also set yourself up with a free checking account. Okay, so keyword is free. There's a lot of different checking accounts out there. They all have different bells and whistles. Some have rewards, some have, something else. But you really, especially when you're just starting off, you really want to look for the ones that are free, the ones that are designed to help you. And I'm speaking to the students at this point, designed to help you to learn how to manage your own money. So right off the bat, you don't want to be worrying about an account that they're charging you $5 every month. I mean, what if you don't even have $5 to put in there every month and they're going to take it away as a fee? No, you don't want to do that. So make sure, even if you intend to use digital type apps and Venmos and all that good stuff, be sure you still have yourself a free checking account that you can also use to keep your money in and out. I'm going to go a little bit nerdy on you folks for just a quick second in the financial world, but the reason too that you want to make sure you have a checking account and not just a savings account is that in the world of finance, checking accounts are known as transactional accounts, meaning that they're designed to be transacted on, to have things going in and out, in and out, in and out. And so your accounts are designed, and the way that they can be used are, it's for that purpose. Versus a savings account, exactly what the name says, savings accounts are designed for you to save, to put money in and hopefully not have to touch it. And if you do have to touch it, hopefully it's not very often. And so because of that, savings accounts do tend to have restrictions applied to them where, you know, maybe you can't take out as often as you need to, or maybe there will be a fee applied after you've taken out so many times each month. So bottom line, you want to make sure you have a checking account along with your savings. Okay, number 2, do get a free debit card and don't wait until the last minute. So, you know, we're in a world of instant gratification, and unfortunately, not all the time is it possible to get something immediately. So by don't wait to the last minute, we mean don't come in on Tuesday when you're getting ready to fly out on Friday to take your child off to college and ask to get the debit card that you want to open on Tuesday. It's going to take a little bit of time. Right now, in the world we're in, there's a lot of supply shortages. So add that to the mix, and debit cards and credit cards are taking longer than they normally would to be issued and come in. And what will end up happening is the card will end up being mailed home to you in Hawaii, and your child will be on the mainland or wherever they are, and they still won't have access to that card. And now somehow you've got to securely get it over to them. But in the meantime, they may not have access to their funds. So do get a free debit card, but don't wait until the last minute to order it. For us at HawaiiUSA, and there are different regulations or different requirements at different institutions, but for us, my daughter, who is a sophomore, she's 15 with a valid government issued ID. So that's the key. It can't be a school ID or a bus pass or something like that. It's got to be state ID, passport, driver's license. I think maybe 15-year-olds can get that now. But government issued ID, 15 years of age, you can come in and you can open up a checking and you can get a debit card. So you can start now. Like I said, this is the building block to make sure that by the time you move on to your young adulthood, you are already seasoned and you already know how to use your finances and your bank account responsibly, and you're ready for that next step, which is credit cards down the line. So don't be afraid to start early. Tip number 3, do use digital banking. So again, going back to the digital age right now, I'm certain almost everyone on here who's got a smartphone probably has 1 or 2 or 3 bank or credit union apps on their phone where you can look in an instant and see how much money you have or how much money is coming out or all that good stuff. Other reasons why it's good for you to access and utilize the digital banking is now you can control so much more than just looking and seeing what's in your account. Features such as the lock or unlock debit card. My daughter was famous, and sorry, real story again. Here we go, parents. You might not want to hear this, but she went to school in a town that literally had 1 bar. It was a small little college town, and it had 1 bar that the kids could all walk to. And my daughter was famous for starting a tab and walking back to school without her debit card. And she'd call me in a panic, and it'd be 1 o'clock in the morning here, and she'd be like, "Mom, I lost my debit card. I don't know what happened to it." And she would just be freaking out, thinking that someone was going to find it and empty it and take all her money. But with things like digital banking, you have access to immediately go on to your app and say, "Freeze my card, lock my card. I'm not sure where it is right now." And then when you find it, you can unlock it, right? Kind of gone are the days of freezing your card and then having to start all over by canceling that one, cutting it up, ordering a new one, waiting for it to come. Nowadays with digital access, it's as simple as lock, unlock on your app. You can also monitor your credit score. At HawaiiUSA, on our digital banking app, we have great financial wellness tools that help you see where you are in your world of credit. And this is even, if you're someone like me and you're very conscious of like, you want to make sure nothing's happening crazy, no one's stolen my identity and opened a loan somewhere, I can look at a glance and see where my credit score is. I can see what's affecting my credit score. If it's lower than I think it should be, I can see why that is, and then I can make choices to bring that number back up, or I can log in and see and be pleasantly surprised, oh, it went up. And then I can look again to see, why did it go up? Oh, I better keep doing that, or I better do more of that. More importantly, and again, my daughter, I can talk all about her because she's not here. She lives in Washington now, and I don't think she's logged on today. But so the other thing that she used to always do and use her app for was to track her spending. I still use a checkbook register. They're probably old school. Anyone else still do that? Kudos. I love to do that. She's like, Mom, what are you writing down? Just put it, it's all on the app. You don't need to do any of that. But, for her to be able to track her spending, she really was able to make smarter choices. My daughter wasn't one to spend a lot of money, but she would spend money often, if that makes sense. And so by tracking her spending using the app, she started to notice, oh my gosh, I'm going to Starbucks 3 times a day. I went to McDonald's for all 3 meals in one day, or 6 days out of 7 of the week, I'm eating out instead of going to the cafeteria and using my meal plan that Mom and Dad are paying for. I'm still eating out. Why am I spending my money when I have a meal plan? But so you can track your spending. And then lastly, there's so much more you can do with the digital app. But lastly, on our tip there is getting alerts. So this is really helpful. Again, if you're someone who wants to know what's happening with your account, you can set things like, alert me when a charge larger than $50 happens. So if you're someone who you don't own a car right now in college, you walk everywhere, or you ride with friends, so you're never putting gas and things like that. So if there's a charge over $50, chances are it's not you, right? So alert me if that happens, or alert me if my bank account balance is at $100 or less, because then I know, oh, I better transfer some money to make sure I've got money in there because I'm about to go to the movies or whatever you're going to do. So you can set it to get alerts depending on what is important for you to know. Now, the don't to this tip, and again, parents, I'm so super sorry. Don't hate me for this, but again, real life, okay? Students, kids, don't share your credentials. And not just with your parents, but with anyone. Don't do it. Nobody needs to know your password. Nobody needs to know your login. That is for you to know so that you can monitor your account. Now, one of the tips, and I don't know, it might be on the next slide, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but one of our other tips is that you should have an account with a parent or a guardian joint on it. Now, why? Because you never know when you're going to need mom or dad, grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle to send you some money. When you're in a bind and you need some money and you need it quick, if you've got someone on the account with you, they can go ahead and they can do that for you. From here in Hawaii or wherever they are, they will be on your account and they can have access into your account as well. For those accounts, whoever it is that's joint with you, they will have their own password, their own user login, and when they log in, they will only be able to see whatever account they are on. So for instance, my daughter and I'm on her checking account. When I log in to her account, I only see the checking account, versus when she logs in, she can see everything that she has on her account. She can see her savings, maybe another checking she has, another savings that she has for a rainy day. She can see whatever she has ownership of, versus me, I only see what I am on and what I have, a right to see as a joint owner. Don't share your credentials. Nobody needs to know. If you ever give it out by accident, or you already gave it out and you're like, no, I already gave it out, change your password. real life college tip for you parents. What I just shared with your students, with your kids, it's going to be the same type of situation when it comes to college information. I literally almost fell off my chair when I called to ask what my daughter's grades were because I hadn't seen them yet. And the college told me, I'm sorry, we can't give you her grades because she needs to access the account and give it to you. And I said, but I pay the tuition. It's my check that you receive every month for the bill. And they say, it doesn't matter. Your student is a young adult. It is their account. They are the student. If you want access to see that, you need to ask your student to either give you access via your own username and password that they allow you to have, which is crazy, right? Your student has to allow you to have access to see certain things, or you have to ask them to look it up themselves and then share it with you. So just thought I'd throw that out there. So hopefully none of you have the mini heart attack that I did. Fourth tip, don't pay to withdraw cash. Use ATMs that are free and or the cashback feature. So this is where, again, starting early and learning how these features work will help you once you're on your own. So if you ever go to the store and let's say you go to Safeway and you go to buy, your Coca-Cola and your Snickers bar, and the cashier says, do you want any cash back with that? So when you pay with your debit card at some stores, you'll have the ability to ask for cash back. And it's just like using an ATM, but you'll get that money from the cashier. And by doing so, that total amount will come out as a charge to Safeway, and you don't pay any added fees. A lot of you who are planning to go away from Hawaii are probably thinking, well, why would I want a HawaiiUSA debit card when there are no HawaiiUSA ATMs on the mainland? There's no Bank of Hawaii or American Savings ATMs. How am I going to get money from an ATM for free? Well, you're in luck. As a credit union, HawaiiUSA is a part of a shared branching co-op network where other credit unions all across the nation and around the world, I think even, we partner together. So we share branch, meaning that as a member of HawaiiUSA, you can go into another credit union in your area, in your neighborhood, as long as they're participating, and you can go in and they will service you as if you were their member. They'll allow you to withdraw, to deposit. So in essence, you have access to your Hawaii funds, your Hawaii account from wherever you are. The other thing to that is we also have a specific checking account product that allows you to get reimbursed for any ATM fees. So we realize that, sometimes there is just going to be a fee for the ATM that you have to use, or wherever you are, maybe there is no shared branching. So when you do use the ATM machine, you're going to get charged the $375, the $675, whatever it may be. If that is your scenario, your case, you want to go ahead and sign up for our eLife checking. It's a specific checking account that has that added benefit where every month, as long as you've met 3 very simple requirements on your account, any ATM fees that you've incurred for using a non-HawaiiUSA or non-Banco machine will be automatically reimbursed to you. So you can use another machine, you can pay the fee at that moment, but rest assured knowing that at the end of the month, you'll get that money back. So essentially it was free. Last tip, do start building credit, but don't treat it like free money. So depending on where you're at right now, I know this audience is anywhere from middle school to our juniors. Depending on where you're at and how comfortable you are with managing money, definitely start with a debit card, a checking account and a debit card. You're using your money that you have. When you add into the mix credit, that's now using money that you don't have, and it's technically on loan to you. So you want to make sure you're comfortable and you're using your money responsibly before you start using HawaiiUSA's money. But you do want to start early. Depending on, your situation, some of you may be looking to purchase a car. Eventually, at some point, you may be looking to purchase a home. And all those things require you to have a good credit history. And so the earlier you can start building that and maintaining it well, the better off you'll be in the future. Lastly, quick little plug for us and our scholarship. Kelvin had mentioned it in his video. So every year, HawaiiUSA does give out 20 scholarships, $2,000 each, and these go to high school seniors pursuing either undergraduate or graduate. There is one requirement, and it's good for all of you on this call because it's still early enough for you to meet this requirement, and it's simply that you be a HawaiiUSA member for at least 12 months before applying. Our application period usually runs between December and March, and that gets posted up on our website. One thing that I'll share that is especially good, or I think is especially good and unique about our scholarship money is, for instance, a lot of times when you receive scholarship money, let's just say, for instance, Kamehameha schools. You receive a $5,000 scholarship from Kamehameha schools. Kamehameha will send that $5,000 scholarship and they will apply it directly. They'll send it to your college and they will apply it directly to your tuition balance, lowering your tuition balance. With our scholarship, what I think is unique and good about our scholarship is that the $2,000 does not go directly to the school. It gets issued to the student who is awarded. And why that's good is oftentimes there are expenses that come up that maybe you did not think about or were not expecting. And sometimes it's nice for you to have access to that little pot of money on the side. So for my daughter, she got a HawaiiUSA scholarship, $2,000. She set it on the side and she used that to travel back home on occasions that she wanted to come home, where we were not in a position to bring her home. Sometimes you don't realize, but even just a school on the West Coast to come back home to Hawaii, you're looking at about $500, $600, maybe even $700 for a round trip. And we got Thanksgiving coming up. I don't know about you guys, but I had to tell my daughter all 4 years, I'm sorry, but I'm not bringing you home for a 4-day weekend and paying $700. You're going to have to stay there. And she was not happy about that. And so, one year she used her scholarship money that she had set aside and she brought herself home. And she said, you're not going to pay for me to come home. I'm going to use my money and I'm going to bring myself home. But, it's little things like that. Or the other thing that my daughter, for us that we didn't realize was we asked specifically before she went to her college, before she signed up, we said, does it snow there? And they said no. Well, freshman year, they must have had a freak blizzard or something, but all 4 years it snowed. And so my daughter was not prepared for snowy weather. And so she needed, access to her funds to go and buy her a coat, buy her snow boots and all that good stuff. So again, things come up that, maybe you didn't think about or you forgot. And sometimes it's nice to have that money available on the side. Or, of course, you can always take that $2,000 and put it right to your tuition balance and bring that amount down. Sorry, I was not paying attention to the chat and I think there's a bunch in there, but this is our contact information at HawaiiUSA. You guys will be receiving these slides, so you can scan the QR or you can email us or click on our website. But I'm going to turn it back to Sheldon. And if anyone does want to stay on a little bit, I know we're a little over our time, but if anyone does want to stay on, I'm more than happy to funnel through some of the questions that were in there. I know there's a bunch, but yeah, thanks guys for the time.
Super great. Thank you, Stacy. Always great to have the inside information. And so for the families who are here, I know some had to go, ask away. Like if there's more questions that we need to address or anything at all, we can hang around. If not, the video we posted either on the HawaiiUSA webpage or even on the HACAC webpage, along with a link to the PowerPoint presentation. If you want the PowerPoint early on, just feel free to email community@hawaiiacac.org and I'll email that to you. But thank you to all the presenters. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Martin.
Sure.
Excuse me. And thank you all to all the high school counselors that are in the room. fielding all the wonderful questions. I hope it was very helpful for you families out there. It's a journey. And so we're here with you along this journey, but we will hang around if there are any questions. I will actually stop recording, but we will hang around. But thank you everyone, and please be safe, but we'll hang out for a few.